All right, about to get started in about 5 minutes or so. Give everybody a moment to tap in.
Damn, man. This series was over, but we just getting started.
Yes, sir. Just now getting started. Give everybody a little moment to tap in. You know what I'm saying?
I'm the new Kanye. When they was like, who Kanye? I got that fire in my soul to make these classics. Hey, I decided to write this letter on a private jet. Cause in many ways it still feel like I ain't made it yet. For every goal I attain, I set like 10 more. But I had to take a break to write you, that's for sure. Take a moment and celebrate how we all alive. Had to write this letter here over a Nujabes vibe. Fuck that rapper shit. Fuck a punchline. This for every single fan that know every single line. So I'm saying thank you for loving me, for setting me free and letting me be. Thank you, thank you.
About to get started. Levels of mastery. About to get started.
Putting it all on the line. Through the sunshine and the rain. Through the good times and the pain. And never staying the same. And having the courage to change. Through the sunshine and the rain. Through the good times and the pain. And never staying the same. And having the courage to change. Thank you for letting me speak my mind. Putting it all on the line. Through the sunshine and the rain. Through the good times and the pain. And never staying the same. And having the courage to change. Through the sunshine and the rain. Through the good times and the pain. And never staying the same. Having the courage to change.
Hey, what's up, Logic? Big love out here from Jonathan, U.S. Navy, out here in Japan. Much love from everybody out here.
Today gonna be a powerful session. We're gonna go ahead and get started, man. I was gonna play another song, but you know what? I just want to go ahead and get started. This is Master Pyro tapping in on Levels of Mastery. Just tap this. This happens every Tuesday, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Such an amazing moment for myself and for those that's participating in this live lecture or whoever watches this following up for multiple reasons. And just to name a few is because this is me communicating or me learning new levels of communicating and experiencing life and to be able to, you know, transfer these ideas over to you so that not only do you, you know, see me evolve in what I'm evolving in and what I'm communicating, but also you being able to understand what I'm saying so you yourself can measure your levels of mastery, your levels of interaction with life, and how are you applying the knowledge that, you know, you're seeking or the knowledge that you have already obtained and fully utilizing. And that's what everything that I do is about how do we fully utilize everything that we have available to us through knowledge. And this is something that I've been, you know, dissecting, and I've been, man, just being able to, I mean, the biggest thing is for me just being able to transfer over to somebody else to understand what I'm coming from so they can transform their life the same way I've transformed my life. Now, today's Levels of Mastery, we're going to be talking about the law of exchange on this one. And the reason why is because I know a lot of us is already familiar with, you know, the law of attraction, and a lot of people don't even know about the law of vibration. And these are things that are necessary to understand when you're trying to create things at a certain frequency. There's been it's funny because today I was moving a couple of my things, and I have a little red book that has like a lot of my knowledge in it, at least when I was more in the journal phase of writing things. And in the beginning of that book, I've written the 7 natural laws, or the 7 hermetic laws of the universe. And I remember there was a time where I was like, you know, this is amazing to know all of this, not just only the law of attraction. You know, there's 6 other ones, and at least in that scroll, if you will. And I started realizing, like, man, how much of these laws am I completely neglecting, if you will? And the law of exchange really transformed a lot for me, because I started seeing how much I wasn't exercising that law to my lifestyle. And it's something that we want to, or I want to highlight in my speak on Levels of Mastery today, in another, highlight of my life, if you will, because these are concepts that I put in the forefront of everything that I do, because once again, these laws really navigate your life in a way more positive, in a way more fruitful way, because you learn how to flow with life with these laws instead of going into resistance, and knowing what it means to be in resistance and being in flow, if you will, when it comes to Mother Nature or the laws of the universe, things of that nature. And I believe it starts from these minimum principles. These not the all in all or the one of all. I believe these are minimal. These are the foundation blocks, at least, in expanding in the pillars of knowledge in how you are navigating your life. So, law of exchange basically tell you that everything is an exchange, right? You breathe in, you breathe out, in and out, almost very similar, if not identical, to law of polarity, right? One compensates for the other side. And I started realizing that once I started to learn how to exchange, which is really, when we exchange, it's really value that we're exchanging in everything that we do, right? Like, for example, I wanted to make sure I had a lot of energy or enough energy for this live, so I went and exchanged my money for this can of Red Bull. And everywhere that I go, when I communicate with somebody, there's language that's being exchanged. So it's like, how many levels are you applying things that you learn or things that you know? Are you only applying them at a surface level? And I saw for myself is that for a while I was playing that game on a surface level. Now, that is not to ignore the surface level or to downplay it. I'm just saying there's more available for us to extract from when it comes to these things. So simply on this level of mind, I started seeing like, man, if I can just always make sure that I overcompensate on my side as much as I can, right? As much as I can, I started seeing that life started to fulfill the exchange in what I'm being compensated for way more abundantly than when I was more scarce behind giving things up or exchanging on things and going all in when it's time to go all in. And what makes the deciding factors to know when to go all in, when not to, and this is where we start playing this game of life. And I believe this idea is tailored to your own unique experience. So let me just share a couple of things within my own life that I can share, and maybe they might give you some kind of awareness of, how to play the game in your lane of life. So for me, there was a moment of me realizing in my path that I'm not doing exactly what I want to do in life. I remember there was a lecture of my mentor, and I can't remember what he said, but I can remember me realizing, like, there's a lot of things in my life that I'm doing that I don't want to be doing. It doesn't make sense why I'm doing it. It doesn't make sense why I'm finding myself circling back in the same cycle, or the same cycle, same rhythm. It's like, why am I not breaking through this thing if I'm consciously not wanting to be or doing these things? Where am I being non-efficient in, if you will, in my actions or even in my ideas and how I'm thinking and what I'm observing and consuming in my mind? And I started seeing, I said, okay, well, there has to be the exchange that's currently going on in my life from what I'm doing and what the environment is giving to me is not where I am wholeheartedly wanting to be standing in. My expression is just never going to be full being here, because I'm in this constraint of weird obligations, if you will. Like, I live a lifestyle now where I don't feel like I have obligations. Like, that part has been cleared out in my life through the AZD process, through living on IMC Nation philosophy to the core, to the fullest, to as much as I can possibly reach. Like I'm consistently diving into the ocean of IMC Nation to keep reaching that next peak. And what I'm seeing for myself is that the more I do that, I start to clean things out in my life. And currently, as I'm experiencing life in this day and time, I don't have this thing in my mind. Like I remember the chain, if you will, breaking off. There's like a lightness of like, every quote unquote problem or issue that I face or it comes up is not one that I wouldn't have wanted to a degree, because it's pertaining to where I'm going. It's pertaining to my next step. It's not like it's detouring me, or it's a slight detour, but it's not taking me way off of where I need to go. I know that this thing that's happening is it's a stepping stone. It's not something of me having to go way out my way towards my evolution. So I started seeing that once I started having problems that I want versus problems that I don't want, I started to realize I'm having a different exchange with life. And now this is a different understanding and a different pressure and a different way of clarity of thinking when you don't have this thing of like, well, I got to go do this and I got to go do that. It's like, no, everything that you're doing is what you want to be doing. So everything that comes into conflict or comes into, the opposing of that thing, right? Like, for example, I remember when I was on my way to come here to Phoenix, right? A lot of people that I know that's here in Phoenix, they know that I lost my car on the way over here. But it was like the challenge of the new space and the new creativity and the new lifestyle. But it wasn't like, but it was a problem that made sense to where I was going. It wasn't like that's a problem. I'm like, man, why am I even doing this? Like, it made sense why I'm doing this. That answer was answered quickly, or that question was answered quickly when that came up. Because see, you're going to always have that question over your mind. It's like a floating cloud that just comes up where it's like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Like, you're going to get challenged to that the deeper you go in the lifestyle you're doing. And I feel like to have that answer, you have to be always in alignment of what you truly see for yourself and clear out all these communication lines and plan of action lines. Like, whatever plan of action that you're currently doing, make sure it's cleaned out. In my language, is cleared out towards what you truly want, so you don't get knocked off your pivot as easily. That's how I see it. Now, a lot of these understandings or things that I'm starting to realize that I need to start speaking on is the military principles that fall behind what I'm saying, because I believe I just see it. It's something that they tell us when you go into the military, and they tell you like, hey, look, you don't see the world the same when you become a soldier. When you are a warrior, you don't see yourself the same. And I understand that in any lane of a warrior, any lane of somebody that's front line in what they want to do. So it's not just limited to the Army, but however, it's the principles and the values that we can extract from this entity, if you will, to make it our own. Because that's something that I realized before I was going into the military. When I was in the military United States, I was like, me going in here, I'm gonna learn these military tactics, if you will, and what they do to find out why are they so powerful as they are, whether it's good or bad or whatever. There's still something that they're applying that we can take from, and that's something that I've taken from in my lifestyle. And one thing that I realized that, the first thing that you learn in basic training is pure survival, like pure survival, meaning all you have is a book bag. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not even called a book bag. It's called a rucksack, right? We got the prophet here. What's up? And that's something that is essential towards, what we're doing in day to day. It's like, what is in your rucksack today, if you will? That's how I see my life every day. Because see, there was a moment in time where every day, all I had was a rucksack to pack. We did have some book bags, but that was on the small marches. When we was on the big marches, it was a big rucksack, right? So in a sense of I had to be mindful of what I was packing in there, because guess what? I'm not gonna be able to carry everything with me. Like, that's something to realize when you're a traveler, or when you're one seeking out a mission. That's something that I saw. When you're one seeking out a mission, you got to realize you have your home base, you have your quote unquote home, your quarters, your whatever. And as you go do your mission for the day, what am I going to take with me? What cannot make it? Like, what am I going to have to do without? And that's something that I spoke on my morning mastery yesterday, is that you got to learn how to go without certain things. And the reason why I'm going over these certain things is because now we start getting a better understanding of what we want to exchange. It's not about just saying, hey, we got to exchange and just exchange. That's not enough for you to make a quality, intention and decision of how I'm going to exchange, when you don't have these elements breaking down on what it is that you want to exchange. So the first thing comes through in the sense of, what are you willing to go without? What is going to feed your soul, and what is not really necessary there that people push on that you may need to feed your soul, if you will. Right. And it's like all these different elements is what's going to help you carry on in your day-to-day, so you can accomplish your day-to-day mission. Because as redundant as it seems sometimes, I mean, I see it for myself. I wake up and I'm like, fuck, another day just passed. I'm here again in the morning. And then, or I think the same thing at night, like, damn, here I am again. I'm here this night looking at the stars. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to probably find myself here again. And it's like, okay, but when I start to fortify my mind in the sense of, I know that's a natural thing in the mind, or expansion, if you will, when you are, let me make sure this is muted. Okay, this is muted. When it's a natural thing when you are expanding and you are doing things in order, this constant check on why you're doing what you're doing comes into play. And what that does is, if you don't negotiate certain things out of your exchange, you will remain in full fulfillment of that thing that you want. So for example, I've been wanting to be a photographer since 2016. Right, 2016. We're going on like 7 years now. Wow. Like, only now at the 7-year mark, I'm seeing the fruits of becoming a photographer. Right? I've already put in 7 years. I'm 7 years ahead of the game on anybody else that's just now picking up a camera. Now, it's not that it's not available to them, but the structure that I use to become who I am today is something that needs to be understood, or at least looked at, to try to compare whether or not if the results are going to be the same, or how we're going to do this and that. And that's where I'm getting to, as far as, okay, how are we going to get to the same path in what we're doing? At the end of the day, you have your path, what you're doing. I have my path to what I'm doing, as far as agenda and, what we see fit and things of that nature for each other's life. But at the end of the day, we have this path of what is the cleanest way? What is the best way that I can unlock my potential in going in my day-to-day life? That's where I'm coming from, at least. And I assume that for everybody here, because that is the levels of mastery, right? You are seeking the next level of your mastery. We are a master in our state of mind and how we want to create our life, by being very strategic. So what is your exchange? How are you going to exchange? So one thing is knowing what your value is. Like, there's so many things in that. It's like unlimited on what you can create. What are you naturally good at? What's a natural skill that your mind goes towards that you can learn how to exchange? And if you will, you can even do it in a way where you can create a personality around that value, or around that service. Now, my friend, from there, we go into calling a brand, right? A business. It's a service with a personality of its own that has a value that everybody wants service of. So I'm going to transition this talk about exchange and all these principles that I went through. Now we're going to correspond this to business and building a brand and building a digital image, because that's something that I'm really good at, apparently. I mean, I'm almost going off of my own results. If I was trash, I don't think I would be getting the results that I was getting. But what I'm doing and how I'm doing it is giving me the results that I'm getting. So I must be on to something. And that's where it makes me stand as a director, because I kept on applying myself at this one specific thing for the last 7 years. And I think a lot of people miss these things. That is not just about the overnight or the week to week or month to month thing that we're looking for. This has to be an ongoing process that we want to forever want to walk through. Like, you can never get sick of it. You got to find that for yourself. And I understand that when my mentor ACD says, like, man, I was in yoga today and I feel like I could do the pose forever. There's times where he's speaking and he's doing his lecture and he's like, man, I could speak forever. I feel that when I'm on the field of doing my photography, I'm like, man, like, it's already been 2 hours. Damn, I could do this shit forever. Even sometimes when I'm doing these live lectures, I'm like, man, it's already been 45 minutes. Shit, I can go forever. Like, you got to find that element in your day, or that activity that leaves that residue in your day where it starts to magnify. And what is the exchange for that? Well, it has to start with your time. That's number one. Now, when you realize how powerful time is, when you really start seeing that is the real monetary exchange with the universe is time, you start to exert it a little bit differently. And this is something that I've seen for myself in my level of mastery. That when I started to find out, okay, I want to exchange my time, universe, God, Buddha, Allah, whoever you are out there that does whatever you do for me, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to exchange my time for this shit. However, I'm going to need, it's need, because it's survival. It's a survival aspect. I'm not going off of anything else. But if I'm going to do it, I want to make sure that I'm at the highest level of obtaining this activity that I want. And I need to make sure that, it's not going out to people that don't know how to value what I'm doing. So with that, I have to be able to register things in my environment that starts to attract towards this value that I have. I have to be able to register them as what? Capable of receiving value, so they can exchange with me properly. Some people don't know how to exchange properly. So then we go down in our creativity. And I see that's something for myself. When I say we, I talk about me. So it's like, so that's another skill set in this exchange, if you will, or this creativity in your business, or just the service that you're going to create. Be able to qualify. Another word is to qualify. You have to know how to qualify your client, or people, or future clients, future people that's in your life. Not only clients, but friends, close networks, relationships. These are necessary. So when you begin to exchange with life, when you start allowing people into your life, you don't feel like you're robbing anybody. You don't feel like you're not doing enough for people. You don't feel like you're shortening people. That's something for me, because I noticed that the me communicating what's the exchange between me and the individual to some degree, I noticed that it starts to make it seem like one or the other is trying to take from somebody. That's like the roaming thing that happens in any other group. If you listen close to any other group, you always hear people say, like, man, I don't know, man. Like, I just feel like this person is just, got to be careful with that person. You can't say this around them. You can't say that around them. But they're supposed to be a tight group. That makes sense if it's just a random ass group. But if it's one of those small groups, I feel like that kind of communication shouldn't be going around in the group, because it's like, why isn't everybody just speaking on what they're going after? And why isn't everybody just helping everybody get there by having one common goal? And that's part of what we have here in IMC Nation, in the sense of IMCTV, where we all can come here and mastermind on concepts that we all fall in alignment of to reach our fullest potential. So we can all benefit. And that's something that is not available as individuals or as a lone wolf. As a lone wolf or as an individual, you can't mastermind at a level by having, like, for example, we got 4 people right now on the Zoom link right now. I'm not seeing the YouTube, so I don't know who's on the YouTube right now. But I'm saying, like, to have all of us now is a higher level of communication automatically. It's another higher degree of concepts, higher level degree of interaction that you can't have alone. And this is a necessary ingredient in exercising this new level of communication and even creation. having a mastermind. And then not only having one, because it's not about just going to get friends or getting random people, but having a positive and a purposeful exchange. That's just major. So with all that, before I continue, I just want to summarize a little bit what I just spoke on. You have to understand that there is a law of an exchange that's happening in the universe. It's one of the principles, one of the natural laws. There's a law of an exchange. So we're now dissecting what it means to be in a deeper exchange with life, not just on the surface level of like, I'm going to do this and you're going to do that. It's on a deeper level on how you're going to exchange in your communication, how you're going to exchange in how you treat people, how you, meet new people, how do you exchange on letting go of old things. Like there's so many different ways of understanding these things, but it's a core principle to always make sure you're in alignment with. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a break. If there's anybody that's online that wants to take a moment to tap in on anything that I spoke on, if it makes sense, doesn't make sense, or anything you want to add to, anything like that, I'm open to all of it. Just give a little bit of flow going. Anybody that's available. If not, I'm just giving about a minute or so before we go into the next topic. Do that while I make some water in here. So. All right. So the reason why I'm speaking on exchange is because it is a key factor in influence. It's a key factor in sharing an experience. If there's one thing I always speak about I always tell my model, I shouldn't say I speak on my model. It's kind of weird. One thing I talk to my models in somewhat in the photo shoot is I tell them, I say, it's the awareness when they say I'm so comfortable, it's always a vibe and whatever positive things they say. I said, listen, part of it is because I'm very aware that I am an experience. I'm aware that you are experiencing me. And because of that, I'm able to be more aware on how comfortable you are. Therefore, I know how to raise your comfort level. I know how to make sure that things in the environment are comfortable as well, to influence comfort. Because why wouldn't you want a photographer or somebody that you work with, if you will, or anybody around you that wouldn't know how to invoke comfort? Like I started seeing that's a new level of power. And that is an exchange. That is an exchange. Giving somebody the experience of being comfortable around you is an exchange. Why? Because it pulls an action out of them naturally. Shit, it pulls one out of me. If I go somewhere that made me feel comfortable in how they serve my food or how they did whatever, I'm willing to pay them a tip. I'm willing to invest more. I'm willing to do that. Why? Because I'm comfortable with them. I'm comfortable with the relation that's being built. So because it's true for me, it got to be true for somebody else out there. So I choose to play with this this ability that's available for anybody to exercise. You got to question, how can I make my environment more comfortable? How can I make my communication more comfortable? How can I make my the experience people have with me more comfortable? Whatever different forms or whatever different languages you can chop up and make it more concrete is where you got to find your answer in that and continuously evolve in that, because that is an exchange. Creating a comfortable environment around you where other people feel and want to become even more around you is something that's just obviously a positive effect. It's a chain reaction that happens. So speaking on models and things of that nature. So those that don't know, I have my own model agency, Paradise Vixens, something I had since, I've been doing since 2018, But I made it official in my mind in 2019. Like I made it official, and now it's more official than ever because now I can really create the level I want to, because I'm solidified in the city that I want to grow in. No longer moving around, so now it's a different kind of energy I can create. So I'm gonna set it up where I could I'm gonna have them be a guest on my show. Reason being because I'm gonna a lot of the levels of mastery, you guys are gonna hear me speak about my models that I work with, people that I network with. The reason being is because that is that is a result of your communication, your network. Like when you have your immediate group of friends, like who those people are and those around that group is your network. So it's like those are the results of your communication. That's something that we need to see. Because the quality of people that's in my life, the prestige people that's in my life, all of those came about due to my communication. Not only outside of myself, but the communication within myself. I noticed when I changed the communication, the quality of communication within myself, I started to experience a different level of people around me. I started having a different quality of women around me. I mean, every time people ask me about, how I got into what I'm doing, like, for example, I went to the dispensary today. I went to the weed dispensary today, and there's a guy that networked with me. He's like, yo, he found out I do music videos or whatever case can be, and he got down my Instagram. And he's been watching my Instagram since he followed me about a month and a half ago now. He saw me today. He said, yo, what's up, man? I got you right here. Skip like 4 people. I got you right here. All right, cool. Chop it up with him. We're going through what bud I want, X, Y, and Z. And he's like, man, I haven't got to hit you up yet because I want to make sure I'm all together. I've been seeing you on Instagram, and I say blah, and I'm like, all right, yeah, dog, no trip. It's all in due timing. And it was interesting about that communication because it's like, once again, your digital image is super important. And if you're not working on your image, you're just not going to have the effect that you think you're going to have, or you think you're working towards, because your image is part of that. Like, you just can't get around that. The image is what becomes it's what people see, if you will. Like, think about it. Your digital image is an image that when the light hits it, we can see who you are. Like right now, you can see who Master Pyro is because the light is hitting me, is making an impression on the computer. So how I dress myself, how I communicate, who I choose to involve in all that, it communicates something. It tells you something about me. So you have, and the more you tailor that, the more closer you will get to your results that you want. Like, what you want is not going to be what I want, and I'm very aware of that. However, it still doesn't take away of that needing to be worked on, or that being to be addressed. And then knowing how to play in that spectrum, because now that's a spectrum that you're not aware of, or haven't been aware of, or haven't exercised. Once you get into that spectrum, you got to play in that spectrum. You got to find out where are you solid in this spectrum. That's something I like to see. Like, when you're aware of a new spectrum, like your communication, how you talk, how you dress, this, that, and the third, you got to find out where you fall in that. Like, for example, if we want to talk about clothes, I saw that when I wear certain clothes, I don't fit that style of clothes. So I don't solidify in that part of the spectrum. But if I wear this and I wear that, I get certain effects. So I'm more solidified in that slot of the spectrum. So I tend to calibrate my style or my fashion around what gets me the effects that I want, and I change it up based on the vibe or the energy that I can hold. So all these things are different factors on creating that digital image. And when you do that, people can exchange with you properly. See, it's not just only about you exchanging with the world or the universe or with individual people, but it's also about how people are able to exchange with you. How can they come about their own business to come and exchange with you? Is that line clear enough? And I've seen for myself, as much as I've been doing, I'm still working on that line. As much value that I think that I have, that's available, the direct reflection behind my value is those that is paying for my service, those that is involved with my service. That's it. Like, we can all say this, we can all say that, we can all use this as a reason and excuse. At the end of the day, your value and how you put it out into the world, that is the direct result of your value and how you're putting it out there. Because there was a time where I didn't put myself out there at all. And I'm like, damn, why am I not getting shit? Well, I mean, you're not putting yourself out there. Then the moment I started putting myself out there towards what my value is, I could even have a moment to not take a project. I was like, man, I need to stop taking projects. Like, I just don't have a break because people are consistently looking to exchange with me. Okay. So I'm gonna get ready to wrap it up. What's the main thing that I was covering today is the law of exchange. This is very important. I really, obviously, because I said really more than 3 times already, hope that everybody looks into this principle of exchange and what it means to exchange with things, what it means to exchange with life, exchange with nature, exchange with the next human being, exchange with the universe. What does that even mean? What does that even look like? I feel like if we even play with that idea a little bit more, I really do feel like we will have a better experience with life, because then we know that something is beginning to balance. Something begins to balance in our internal universe, because we don't feel getting robbed. I hate that feeling when I'm feeling I'm getting robbed or life is robbing me. Man, I hate that shit. I no longer feel like life is robbing me anymore, because I really solidified this act of exchange. And that's what I want to highlight of this whole talk is, how are you performing the act of exchange with the universe? How are you performing the act of attraction? How are you performing the act of the law of vibration? And all the other following laws, right? The law of polarity, all these things like that. It's an act going on. We're all performing an act. We're all performing a role. Like, whatever role that you're in right now, as much as I come to realize, that role is there because we truly believe we need to be there doing that role at that time we're doing it. Because if not, all it takes is for you to change your mind right now. Like, right now. You can, and I remember having this thing in my mind 1,000 times when I was transitioning from working the matrix to now being fully sustained off of my art. I remember when I was at work, I was just like, man, I could really just get up and be like, fuck this job, I'm going home. I can do that. I can do that. But what's stopping me from doing that? As much as I want to say, fuck this job, I want to go home right now. And I started seeing, I was like, oh, the money, I don't get paid until next week, Friday. This bill's going, and then all these lists starts coming up. Bop, 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 bop. I'm like, damn. This goes back to the first part of my talk on here, being obligated, your obligations, right? Being attached to things that you don't even want to be attached to. Doesn't even make sense. So I would say that to say, in the sense of, get back into that rhythm of your life where you don't have any weird obligations. You're not obligated to do anything. You don't have to do anything. You do it because you choose to do that. You're there because you choose to play that role. That role is made specifically for you. That hardship that people talk about, it doesn't even make sense as a hardship. It's like, yo, that's just part of the fuck I want to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do a casting call and I call 20 models and fucking only 2 show up. Okay, am I going to sit here and cry about that? No, it's just part of the fucking process. That will make one person quit. That will make a nigga like me want to just keep going. You see what I'm saying? Why? Because it's like, that is what's going to fuel me to become the monster I want to be. So it's like, you take everything that's meant to destroy you so you can build on top of it and conquer it. That's how I see it. As the soldier that I've become in this lifetime, I've learned to stand on top of everything that the enemy has made to destroy me. Everything. And that's another thing. You got to be aware there are enemies out there, man. There are people with the opposing force of who you are as a person. 100%. And the moment you act like that's not a real thing, it's the same moment it's too late. They already got a lot more closer than you thought. And how do I challenge myself with this? I just believe, like, what movie was it? I think it's Mortal Kombat. I think it's like the Annihilation. There's like this guy where he turns into a shadow, so he like liquefies, and it's like two of him on the other side. And it's like, you got to see yourself as that in a sense of competition. See yourself as, man, if there was somebody just like me going after exactly what I want, how I want it, how am I going to beat this guy? Because guess what? I guarantee you somewhere in the spectrum, there is somebody just as close as you trying to get to certain things that you're trying to get to somewhere. Now, whether you run into that motherfucker or not in this lifetime, that's a whole nother conversation. But one thing that I do know, that this mental exercise alone helps me stay at a high vibration, helps me stay in a vibration of high respect for everybody around me and myself. And also, it helps me exchange with people properly, give them the right attention when it's necessary, right? Making sure that my focus is clear cut as possible, because the enemy doesn't give a fuck if you got distracted. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, the enemy doesn't give a fuck if you forgot this or you forgot that, or I was up late last night, or I should have done this, or, you know, I thought this was going to happen. No, that's why you got to have a plan. This is why you got to plan ahead of time. This is why you got to take an account of everything in the time frame of things that are going on. You got to be able to think like a chess player and see multiple layers out. It's just part of the plan. Because if you don't, the enemy will. That's something that I always saw. Especially me as a traveler, I have to be ahead of my time when I'm traveling. If not, I leave myself open to that possibility. All right, so before I close it out, I'm gonna give everybody a quick little moment to tap in. Anything that I might have said, might have triggered anything that you want to expand on, or hey, Pyro, you didn't make any sense in anything you said all day today. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. That I'm cool for that too. Listen, I'm all for it. So whatever we want to talk about is all open. I'm gonna give about 5-10 minutes before I fully close out the show on Levels of Mastery. I just want to appreciate everybody for tapping in with me today. If not, I'll go ahead and get ready to close out. If anybody has anything, shoot for it.
Yeah, I had a question. So you were talking about
All right, the prophet right here.
Yeah, you were talking about being in a job, and that job created these weird obligations that you felt and that you had.
And I saw how that was not only in the job, but it was in other areas of my life that was resonating on that same unwantingness, if you will.
Facts.
Yeah.
So is it possible, well, not even everything's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So what would be your take on, let's say, this right now, this job, even though I don't want to do it, and it's an obligation, but right now it's a survival decision. So I'm choosing to do it. So what about owning the decision? Does that make the obligation less?
Yes. So what I would say is, that's a really good question, because you have to literally change the flavor of that in your world. So when I was doing my job, I had to have a purpose for being there. I had to be a reason for being there. And also having something active outside of that job that was getting me out of there. And I was very persistent about. So what I mean by that, people used to tell me when I used to work at job, I used to get off at Friday. When I used to get off at Friday, I was into an event. I used to get off of work, go straight into an event the whole night, work the whole weekend, and go straight. I basically never took a day off, because all my quote unquote off days were 3 days that I fully invested in the other thing that I wanted. So I never had an off day for almost 2 years. There was no weekend, there was no holiday, there was none of that. So I'm saying that in the sense of I was making deposits on any free time that people had that was working 95. I never had a free time. Every minute, every hour was invested or deposited in me learning how to get better in my skill, to network and master my craft. That was all it is. Because it was like the Iron Man movie in that part where he's in the cave making the Iron Man shoe. Like, you have to know that when you're out there in front of the camera in front of them, that you're doing what they ask you to do. But on the off time when all they're sleeping, you got to be making your suit to get up out of there. That's how I created so you don't have this weird thing of like, I'm doing this to survive. Yes, but don't do it where it's taking away that should be fueling you when you get off of work. Like, I don't want to do that. You see what I'm saying? I don't want to be doing this other shit. It should be fueling you to keep on going. You know what I'm saying? That's why I have this weird understanding of like, I have this weird off time, like, or off day or a holiday. Like, it doesn't even make sense to me. You know, every time that I was made, every dollar that I made was going towards my ticket. Like, I had to save for a ticket. I had to save for the Uber. I had to save for the food when I get there. So every minute, every dollar was accounted for. You see what I'm saying? So that's very important, because that means if you have any open doors in that, it's like an airplane with a door open in the back. You're just getting a vacuum is pulling everything out of it. You see what I'm saying? As you're moving, thinking you're going somewhere, but you're losing everything you're traveling with. So that's something to realize, in the sense of changing the flavor by saying, okay, this job is here, but what is on the open time? What is being absorbed, or what is being done in that open time? On your weekends, on your days off, when you clock out, what is being done? What is being deposited in that time? If the answer ever comes up where it's not in alignment to that thing that you want, then you're not doing it. You see what I'm saying? And that's where you start falling back into the pit, because when you do that enough, you'll keep propelling towards that direction. That's a really good question, because I know that's a very strong pillar in people's minds that is going through the transition of working a 9-to-5 or working a regular job to working, your own business, your own job, being free of that shit. I know it is, because I was been challenged with that 1,001 times. The only thing that saved me from that was, I'm telling you, late nights, early mornings, no weekends. If it was, like I said, if I was out networking, it was to do that. I wasn't partying or anything. I was making sure I networked with somebody, I created a project, and I expanded my network. Major key. All right, anybody else? Appreciate that, Prophet.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, smooth. All right, this is how we're gonna how I'm gonna close this out. Man, law of exchange. Man, I wish I had more time to really break this down. So I'm going to be opening up a couple, programs and things of that nature to be able to spend more time on these concepts and be able to break them down in the way where it's more than just entertainment. It's more than just hearing somebody speak. It's really life-changing things. And, by the time you go through the program, it will make a definite shift, a realistic shift at that. So once I get those things, I'm definitely going to announce it. Like I said, everything that I do in my life or that I have in place is to help better my communication, my imagination, and also, my network and my group and whoever I'm in alignment with. To look forward sometime this coming month in March, I'll be having an episode with the Paradise Vixens at some point. Not sure when, but I'll announce it when it comes about. Also, I'll be traveling to LA sometime this coming month. I have a couple of things that'll be going on. I gotta get the calendar going. So once I get the calendar, I can read it to you guys. That's another thing, making sure you're scheduled. Major thing. But yeah, I think I'm gonna just leave it out as that, man. I appreciate everybody for tapping in with me. The law of exchange, look into it, dive into it, look into other things that's related to it, and really start to integrate it's more than just knowing these things and just grasping things and just hearing things to hear things, man. It's about applying. Applied knowledge is true power. Applied knowledge. Yes, knowledge is power because, you can do shit. But it's like, if you're not doing nothing, it's like you're not doing anything. You're just a head full of, air, if you will. That's how I see it. You're just one big airhead just floating around with all this knowledge, not doing shit, you know, and you're anchored by your old bullshit. That's just how I see it with a lot of people. So, yeah, is there anything else that we would like to tap in with before I close it out? I'll close it out.
Yeah, it's Master myself here. Want to tap in real quick and just provide some insight as to, you know, what you're talking about. It's very powerful insights that you've been going over, the law of exchange and whatnot. But, you know, one thing I want to encourage everybody that, you know, maybe watching this after the fact is, you know, just consider, even in still being in you know, position to be of service or what have you, you know, when it comes to work or, you know, having a job, whatever the case may be, you know, something that's so essential that I've learned through my process is just, you know, finding different ways to exchange, you know, to whatever extent that you can, right? So like, you know, showing up to these live streams, for example, is one form of exchange, right? But also, you know, putting yourself in multiple areas where you can be of service and be of help, you know, to other people. I essential because, you know, you don't know what that is doing for, you know, for somebody. Maybe you're not being rewarded, you know, monetarily wise or, you know, whatever the case may be, but you have some form of exchange. Maybe it's just your energy or maybe it's your time, you know, whatever that form of exchange may be. It's essential to know that that's like the starting point of you stepping into the, you know, the realm that you want to, like yourself, you know what I'm saying, when you say, you know, talking about how you're serving and in terms of your art, right, and just living on that and, you know, being supported by that. I think it started with you, you know, doing the work ahead of time, you know, to you know, lay out the foundation of how you're going to transition and so on and so forth. So yeah, I just wanted to provide that.
Man, that's major, because I realized for myself that I know is going to happen for anybody is that there is a mental and spiritual meter that has to be filled before it can be unlocked. I could see it, like, because there was so many moments in my traveling, in my saving, in my work ethic, and the losing of sleep and relationships and all these shit like that, all these sacrifices that come with it. It was key moments for me, like epiphanies and all these times where it was like, okay, these are the moments right here. And that's something we need to start measuring. Like, these are the moments where people quit. This is the moment where somebody will give up. This is the moment where somebody is not willing to pay this price right here. And they will compromise everything else because they don't have the right perspective of what's happening in this moment of, you know, if you will, things clearing out to live that life. Because it didn't make sense to me. Like the week that I quit from my job, I remember I was not expecting to quit that day at all. I remember it was in my mind of like, yeah, I'm gonna quit around here, or, you know, I'm gonna put my 2 weeks. Like, I remember going through that, and I remember having that initial around this time type of vibe. But I remember it was this initial decision when my manager, or whatever the hell she was like playing with my time. She was like, no, you're not going to get your schedule back, or maybe. I remember just the way she communicated to me. I was like, I can never allow somebody to feel like they can play with my time like that. And I remember the next day, I was like, I'm putting in my 2 weeks the next day. And I wasn't even expecting that. And I remember when I put it in, I was like, man, I got 2 weeks. I got about 2 more weeks in this motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, I remember that immediate, there's another moment of like immediate shift of like realizing like, bro, you're fully off of your own energy now. Like, you're fully off of your own shit. Like, this moment on. I remember when I got that last check after that, it was like, whoa, this is real right now. So I'm saying, like, however, because I did it the way I chose to do it, which was, I wasn't totally against having a 9-to-5 while chasing the dream. I feel like you should have a foot. You should know where you should know what it feels like. Like, you should have somewhat of a foot in that world before you just completely jump over. I think that's just the safest way to do it. Now, I'm not saying it's not going to be at full reach. You're going to have to make some kind of a jump. It's going to be some kind of a effort. It's going to be effort. That's the thing. A lot of people have this idea that it's not going to be that much effort. It's going to be a lot of effort, a lot of it. And it's like, once again, when you measure it, this is where people quit. And I'm seeing it's like, okay, well, when you have things in order, like the law of exchange, when you have that really good in order, you can rely on that. And that is a whole nother level of power that I see within myself that comes from my confidence. Like, and I ask myself, why am I so confident to do what I'm doing and how I'm doing it? Well, it's because I'm very confident in my ability in the exchange. I'm very confident in my ability to my skill set in social dynamics and knowing how to exchange. And like one thing I want to say real quick was it's knowing how to convert the exchange that you're getting if it's not monetary exchange. So if you have a network exchange or you have a service exchange or you have a value-based exchange, okay, how do I convert these different exchanges into monetary exchanges? Because from there, they can turn into monetary exchange 100%. But that's what we got to find it within ourselves and also get ourselves off the hamster wheel of just doing things that just sound right to do. Like I went through that phase, and when I got out, I'm like, yeah, this sounds right to do. Let me just do it. And I'm like, fuck, I'm still not getting anywhere. I'm not getting the results I want to do. This is where being intelligent in our decisions and saying, okay, this is not working. I need to transition to something else. Something has to it's not giving up. And that's why I think we have this fine line of like, I'm giving up on this. No, there's a difference between giving up on something and making an intelligent decision of saying, this is not working right now. We need to apply something else until something works. That's not giving up. And I think sometimes people have that wrong conception of those two things. And that's going to create an effect on how you exchange with things. That's what I'm trying to get to. And I really wish I had more time to break down this exchange, because it's not just about doing the initial, here you go exchange. It's really about the quality and the true understanding of what an exchange is. So anyways, that's all the time I have for you guys. I really appreciate everybody for tapping in with me. I look forward to the next levels of mastery. This is every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. All right. I have another brother here at Base Phoenix, Base 5. Whoa, that was like a mouthful for me for a second. Base Phoenix 5. We got out here, tapped in. He's about to go live, so y'all stay tuned, right, on IMCTV. This is a phenomenal creation that we have going on IMCTV and IMC Nation. And not even that, it's phenomenal to have individuals like us based up, creating at the level we're creating, and being able to collaborate. And those that's not in the base, be able to witness what it is to be in the base. So the moment it's time for you, well, there's only so much you're going to know what to expect, because you have to just go through the process. However, it is a phenomenal process beyond. I've been based up since last year in base 2, base 3, now in base 5. And it's just a phenomenal experience. And, I encourage everybody to be more integrated IMC Nation through Dragon's Lair. Of course, the monthly gatherings that we have every month with AZD, IMC, and the VIP events that we have, because this is what's going to really take your evolution, take your social dynamics, take how you communicate to life and respond with your value to that next level. My life is a result of that. However life you see on Instagram or wherever social media you find me at, or how you find me in the streets and how I'm living my life, J Guru Dev AZD, because that all comes from AZD, the master, the fucking legend, if you know what I'm saying. So we'll all do time. I appreciate everybody for their time.